Tony, good morning.
Good
I
morning.
have been so excited to have you on the podcast. I know you have been an OTR driver like me and leading a team and now crushing it in sales, hopefully. So, your journey is nothing short of amazing. And to be quite honest with you, I always knew that one day you will end up in a sales and, freight brokerage side, and I'm excited to hear your journey. So let's dive into your story and all of the wisdom you have picked up along the way. Thank you so much for coming to my your bestie in freight podcast, and I'm very excited. So let's get started.
So, yeah, it's a long story, and the wisdom that I bring is from experience. And unfortunately, I tend to learn things the hard way. So, I never, my story of getting into freight was accidental, like most. I was never intending to be in freight. I wanted to do something with my time in between being unemployed and getting to where my goal was, which was owning a business. And I wanted to, with my friends in high school, of course, in the 90s, we wanted to build a audio store with stereo equipment, stuff we liked, audio, video stuff, and go down that road. But I ended up driving my dad was a truck driver off and on growing up, and we hauled Hummers. The military Hummers and the civilian Hummers are made right down the street in our town. And
Okay.
my dad worked for a guy who contracted with a company that hauled those. So I would be out there helping him load Hummers and stuff. And he ended up moving on from that and starting his own company. We had horses and did a lot of trail riding in the summer and fall and spring, and pretty much in any time that wasn't pure winter like now.
Yes.
And he got into hauling horses over the road with a horse trailer and a pickup truck, because there was this weird niche where there was retired couples that would travel 300 or 400 miles a day and then put them up in a boarding facility, and then there were semis, and the semis wanted you to meet at a truck stop and unload the horse, and it was just, we found this little niche where we were in between that, where we would run like a truck but door-to-door service to make sure that it was very customer oriented. Because in the horse world, if they're moving horses cross country or even 2 or 3 states over, there was a niche that was needing to be filled, that people really wanted barn to barn service. They didn't want to drive out to the truck stop to the nearest highway and meet a semi, and the horse was more than freight to them. It
Okay.
was it was a pet or a beloved animal or an
Yes.
investment, breeding, whatever. So there was a whole lot of money in horses, and I started doing that with my parents, and then they divorced, and I ended up taking over the business myself and running it with my mom for a little while until life just happened, and I quit doing it. I was young and making a ton of money and thought everything was great, and I thought I could do better, and
Yes.
went back and finished up college, and then I started driving a truck thinking, well, I'll just keep doing this until I can start a business. And then I just really enjoyed driving a truck, and it was a lot of fun. So I did my over the road time. I've been to 46 of 50 states: Alaska, Hawaii, Washington, Oregon, and Maine. I've been like this close to Maine, but I've never set
Yes.
foot in Maine. But it's beautiful up there. I love the Northeast. It's really pretty,
Yes.
but I wouldn't want to live there.
Yes, it is cold. I actually been on the northeast side when I was driving. We were like mostly driving north, also Midwest, but I haven't been Oregon, Washington, so that part of the country now.
What's your favorite place?
I think my favorite place was Florida. We were driving from Chicago to Miami, and we were getting lucky sometimes, and we will have our reset, so we will enjoy Miami during the weekend. Why not, right? And then start driving again. So my favorite place was Miami, especially winter time, because from
Yeah.
Chicago, cold. Now you are in Miami, warm and beach and
So
fun.
when I was hauling horses, we went to Florida twice a month. So I was
Oh,
in the Ocala, the Central Florida area, a lot.
yes, yes.
Florida is actually the horse capital of America. There are more horses per capita in Florida than anywhere else. You
Wow.
would think it's Texas, but there's a lot of empty land in Texas.
I lived actually in Florida for 8 months, and I have seen a lot of horses, but I didn't know that they have the most horses. That's interesting.
The
Okay.
horse to people ratio is highest in Florida than anywhere else.
Wow.
I'm very familiar with Florida. We used to run down the center highway US 27 down into Ocala was my favorite area, and we would deliver. We used to import with an importer and a brokerage firm quarter horses from Germany. So
Okay.
quarter horse is America's breed. Was made here, was developed here, and there's several places in Germany and Europe that were breeding horses, the quarter horse, and they would import them through the Miami airport, and we would pick them up and then distribute them through the country, and it was really a lot of fun.
Wow.
So that's how I got started in logistics, and I just never left.
Yes, there is this joke in our logistics community, right? Once you
Yeah.
are in, you are in. You cannot get out. So,
Nope, and I don't want to.
yes. So, like, tell me about the transition. How you moved from like structured salary, as a shipping manager, now like more performance driven, like sales. Because
So
I know it is a big transition and it is, difficult for most of the people because now they don't have this security, what we
right.
call.
So I've never been any kind of salesperson whatsoever. I've always been either a driver or a shipping manager, and whether that's materials management, inventory management, warehouse, shipping manager, or multiple plant shipping manager. That's always been fun, and I always was on the receiving end of the sales pitch. And I
Yes.
thought, my gosh, I could help these people so much because they all sound the same and they're terrible, and it seems like there's no real differentiator. There's nobody ever actually trying to be different and unique.
Yes.
And I appreciated the attempts, but I didn't respect them. And moving into this side, which is what I always wanted to give it a try, but I never thought I'd be any good at it because I'm not a salesperson. So I thought my experience in driving and being a shipping manager at a couple of giant companies that do
Yeah.
millions of dollars in freight every year would be super easy because people would want to believe me, right? They would want to
Yeah.
trust somebody like me with their freight because I know from their side what it looks like and
Yes.
what they would want. And I'll tell you what, no one cares. No one cares what I used to do. And I'm just a sales guy like everybody else. And I'm finding it really hard. It was humbling. I thought, my gosh, I started an LLC and I was going to
Now
do.
you understand us? Now you understand?
I do. I'm sorry for never emailing you or going back and blocking you and all of those things I did. I'm not,
Yes.
but
So how you trying to be different like any other, freight broker, or how you trying to stand out because you already experienced as a shipping manager what all of the brokers are telling when they are calling or emailing? What is your
so
strategy?
I can tell you my strategy, but it's not working well. So I'll be glad to share it with you.
It's okay. Let's find out what it is not working so we can find out what we can do so it works, okay?
So I try and introduce myself as a shipping manager and driver with my background and experience because I think that's the biggest asset that I have to offer is my experience in their role as well.
Okay.
So when I approach somebody, I try and tell them that, hey, I get it. I understand where you're at. I know you're getting hit up all the time, 10, 15, 20, 50 emails and LinkedIn DMs and all that every day. And I know that everybody always promises you the best service, the best rates, the best value, blah, 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 blah. And I can tell you that I can actually offer that because I've been in your shoes and I've been a driver and I understand from those sides
Yes.
what it looks like to be in your shoes, and I want to provide that value in a way that you'll understand that's different from everyone else. And it's not been very effective, so I have to pivot and figure something else out. And what I've learned is knocking on doors and calling on the phone and actually being in front of people and talking to them. They're a whole lot more receptive to
Yes.
the idea of somebody in sales or brokerage or whatever. Offering that value that is more than, hey, I can move your load, because anybody can move your load. I mean, AI can move your load, but I think it's easier to talk to somebody in person and build that relationship, because we've always talked about this business.
Yes.
The logistics industry is about relationships, and having good relationships with your carrier base and people that want to come back and work with you again is huge. And we have a ton of that at McClay's, and I love I love the support and the family environment that we have there. We have a whole lot of freedom and latitude, and um,
That's great.
they're
You
doing it
guys
the
are
like,
asset based, right? If I'm not mistaken. You are asset based?
yeah, we have a ton of trucking company assets. I don't know, 100 and 125 or something like that, but a lot of our assets are on dedicated lanes where they're running day cabs and they're just running in in their area for their customers that are dedicated. And then the brokerage started in 2019, where we
Okay.
were really they started the brokerage to try and grow the business for the assets,
Yes.
right? So the brokerage was an offshoot of being asset. You know, it started as Gary and Linda McClay started Gary Lynn Courier Service, and they were just moving parts for a GM plant in Ingersoll, Ontario, in
Okay.
Canada, and it just kept growing. And then there was an American asset side, and then the brokerage started in 2019. And you know, for 40 years we've been trucking, right? And now we're trying to
To grow the
feed the trucking
brokerage.
business with the brokerage, and then now the brokerage is growing. So we understand from the asset side what it is to be a broker because we have the trucks, right? So
Yes.
these people aren't coming in with like an office and nothing and just sales. So it's really cool to be a part of a team that, like, the reason I joined McClay's is because they're doing it the way I wanted it done. When I was in shipping, I wanted it done a certain way. Everybody promised that they would. I had about 2 vendors out of the 80 that we used that actually listened and followed that instruction that I asked for.
Yes.
So it was very rare to get people to do what they said they were going to do, even though they agreed to it.
Yes.
Well, McClay's was one of those ones that every time I talked to them, they were doing it the way I wanted them to do it by default. That's just how they operate. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, when the opportunity came, I had to join.
Yes. That's great. Well, I think when you shared what your strategy, I think your focus should be, in my opinion, mostly that you are an asset based. That's how I got my couple of customers. Even though I only had like 5 trucks, I would introduce myself as an asset based company. And this way, you know, you will have more trust instead of just saying that you have been a shipping manager. Because you understand, as a shipping manager, you care if they have capacity, right? And of course, if they will provide a good service. That's what I would, you know, think that would be your best bet, even though you have dedicated, you know, lanes. But still, you might have, you know, trucks that are available, right? If not, then you can do freight brokering as a, you know, extra loads.
Yeah, that I will. I have been tweaking the approach for a while now, and I think I need to continue to do that and continue to learn
Yes,
and grow.
of
So,
course. Of course, you're doing great. You know, it is transition, and no transition is easy. I think
yep.
it takes time to adjust, and it takes time to also change our mindset, right? Because now we have to think different. We have to
Yes,
think as a salesperson. We have to think how to build this relationship already from other side of, you know, being in
yeah,
sales, right? So
it's very unique.
yes, but I love sales because I think it is one of the most challenging things, you know, challenging things, but also it shapes you, you know, being resilient, being consistent, right? Being like stronger, not giving up. Because as an employee, I feel like you don't have that drive because you're just like doing, you know, your steps, everyday tasks.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of folks. Matt Smith was one of the guys I had hired at Lippert and taught him logistics. He was a corrections officer, a
Uh-huh.
military veteran, and he came in and I gave him this task to deal with this one portal that I hated. It was just a lot of work and they never got anything right. And he just solved it and got it done and made sure it was his own and owned it. And then
Uh-huh.
I gave him some more stuff and more, and he just grew and loved it. And getting people in there that want to do it is wholly different than getting somebody who has to just
Do
perform
it.
the tasks.
Yep,
So
I
when
agree.
people, when they want to learn and they have that learning mindset, growth mindset, it'll change the course of your career. And now he's thriving at his own. He's a shipping manager now at a large vehicle company and doing really well. And he's been there a couple of years now. And he thanks me. And I'm like, dude, I thank you because you're the one that wanted to grow and had that desire to learn. And that's what did
Yes.
it, not me. I just told him what I used to do and
That's
how to do it.
amazing. No, I think it was also you giving him opportunity because not everyone, you know, does it. So it was both of you, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't like to take credit for somebody else's success. I like to say I
I know
helped
you are
somebody
just
grow.
humble person like me, but I lately learned, Tony, that we have to, be appreciating more what we have done, just, internally. It doesn't have to be loud, but we have to be, proud of what we have done or how we helped others. So,
My view on leadership like that is I want to help the people around me grow into their next step. Lippert was very big on developing and coaching leadership. We had leadership coaches and
yes,
spent a ton of time and money on developing people. And I think that that resonated with me because I think that when you develop people, they start to care. And when they care, they do a better job.
I
And I
agree.
love the fact that they did that at Lippert. And I thoroughly promote them as a company and a place to work and a place to buy from because there's a ton of people in there who are learning and growing and getting
Yes,
better, and they're turning into a great place. And I my time there was fantastic. I loved every minute of it, and I
yes.
just this is a new opportunity, and I wanted to go down this road and uh, see
New
where it takes me.
challenges, right? Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I
because I
remember
want to
you
learn
were.
and grow too.
Yep. I remember you were like introducing that company so good. And I love when people, like the companies they work and they are proud because it is the same for me with Freight Tech. I love Freight Tech. I'm proud
Yeah.
working with Freight Tech and I get, lots of offers, but I decided that I don't want to change anything. I want to stay with them. So let's, talk a little bit personal and be a little bit vulnerable. So we know like we both get into like some life difficult
Yeah.
situation. We both got divorced, and from my experience, I know that this is a moment that either can break you or make you stronger. So how did that experience shape you as a person, and how did it impact you, the way you approach your career or relationship?
Well, I can tell you it did both. It made me stronger, but it broke me too. Divorce is never easy. It's not fun. It's not something I wish on anybody. It's a terrible process. We had kids. My two of my three are grown, but my third one is in junior high. He's eighth grade this year, and it's tough on them, and it takes a year, and it's a long drawn out process, and it can be ugly. It can be varying degrees of ugly. I hated the entire thing. I hated the process. I don't like the idea of it. All I ever wanted growing up was a stable, healthy family, and I had that for a long time. And there was a lot of stuff that wasn't right, and I did a lot of stuff wrong, and I'm sure she would say the same thing. We're amicable now, and looking back, I think probably maybe we should have never got married in the first place. But that's hindsight's 2020 on everything. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you can embrace the hurt or you can learn to heal. And for
Yes.
a while, I embraced the hurt, and I started going through a dark time. I was not in a great place emotionally or mentally or spiritually, and I learned to reconnect with myself and my faith, and started talking to some counselors and some therapy sessions, and I just needed to get back to who I was as a person,
Yes.
who I am as a human being, and lean in, rely on faith and family and friends and people that want to help see you do well. And it takes a long time because it's a process for sure, and I'm sure I'm going to continue to go through it for a lot more time. But what you have to do is you have to be strong, you have to learn to grow, and you have to learn to be vulnerable and admit some of the things that you don't want to admit about yourself. And that's never easy. Introspection and learning from yourself and your mistakes, admitting that you're making mistakes and admitting that you need to change this behavior or that behavior or whatever the issue is,
Yes.
that you can grow from that, and then embracing that, accepting the responsibility for your actions, for your non-actions, for your behaviors, and all of that allows you to grow. And if you don't accept that responsibility, then you really can't grow. So, first of all, you have to look in the mirror and say, "Man, I could have done this better, and I could have done that better." But
Yes.
it's not just about hindsight, wishing you'd done better and being regretful or anything like that. It's about what can I learn from this and how can I do better in the future? And I can tell you, man, that the amount of growth I've seen in the past year in myself has been phenomenal. I don't know that in my whole time as an adult that I've grown this much ever.
Yes.
And again, like I said, I hate it for anybody that would have to ever go through this, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But there's a real opportunity to take a time and do some self-reflection, get in touch with your faith, get in touch with your family, get in touch with your close friends, and have
Yes.
them help you grow. So if you have a really close friend who says, "Hey, buddy, you're being an idiot. You need to fix this and do this and do this." Sometimes when you're stuck in that pity for me or sorrow for or regret or whatever, you need that good friend that says, "Hey, buddy, here's a kick in the pants. You need to straighten your act up and start doing
Yes.
this, this, and this." And then you go, "All right, well," you come around and you get the support from folks who care about you, that are doing
Yes.
that with a loving mindset, that want you to be better. And there's been
Yes.
some great folks that have pushed me to grow and to learn. And it's not an easy process, and it's a long process. And like I said, I'm going to be in it for a long time, I'm sure. But there's a real opportunity for growth there, both personally and professionally. It led to a job change for me, and it wasn't necessarily fully intentional that I was like, "Hey, I'm going to go into freight brokerage."
Yes.
But it is the next logical step for me, and
Yes.
I do enjoy being here. I am very grateful and appreciative for the opportunity to be a part of the team here at McClay's. And like I said, they're doing it the way I want to do it, with integrity, with the value and the service that we're offering and adding for people like you. And it's been helpful to me to dive in and learn something new and grow in a way that I wasn't growing before. I
Yes.
was kind of stagnant. I was in this shipping
Exactly.
manager role, and being
Yes.
a couple of different plants and just doing that thing over and over. And we took the OTD from 73 to 99 at one plant, from 40 to 90 in a couple of months at another plant. And
Yes.
fixing things is what I like to do. Making it
Yes.
right and doing it well and saving money along the way it's outstanding. But I got kind of good at that. And not that that's a bad thing. I just, now it was time to try something
To
different.
try
And
something, to challenge yourself. And of course, every challenge, brings you better reward, right? But I can relate so much about, what you have shared about the divorce situation. I think when you are in marriage, you lose yourself. You don't know what you like, you don't know who you are, because now you are not you. You are like a
you're
community
half of a
with
unit.
kids. Yes, you have to consider a lot of stuff, and reinventing yourself after divorce is, I agree, one of the most important things that I have also experienced. And as you said, I would never recommend anyone to get divorced. Like, if someone is asking me question, I would always say, if you can save your family, your marriage, please do. I will never recommend anyone, getting
Right.
divorced. But if situation like that happened, and you cannot go back, so now it is time to get stronger, and to grow as a person, as a professional and spiritual, and as you say, like growing in faith, reinventing yourself. It was just amazing what you have shared. And the healing journey, it is every day. Every day you have to heal. And self-reflection, as you say, because from what research I have done, it is not just one person. Like, it
Right.
takes two-person to get married, and it takes two-person to get divorced. And remember, I actually was trying to support you sometimes, once in a
Yeah.
while, in Instagram. And when you shared, there is stages in divorce, and I think in even in professional life, like healing, regret, right, grief, acceptance. Like, we have to come to this acceptance and self-awareness, so we can already like heal from there and grow from there. And that's very important to do
It
for
is.
our inner
And,
self.
and, and I think you really have to go through all of the stages of that
You do.
to get to a point where you're growing forward and you're learning and becoming a better you.
Yes, that's
It's easy to
amazing.
get lost in a relationship and in a marriage where you're putting the kids first, and next thing you know, I don't know what the heck's going on. And then, so when you go through something as traumatizing as a divorce can be,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, it's traumatizing even more to the kids, and you have to learn to protect them and be their advocate no matter what, and try and remove your personal feelings from how the kids
Yes.
interact and see mom and see dad, and then that difference now, and that, one home, now there's two homes. And
Yes.
my son called me the other day and said, hey, can I come over and watch the game tonight, right? Notre Dame's playing
Yes.
Penn State, big playoff game. And I said, son, you don't have to ask to come over. This is your home too. And he was
Yes.
like, I know. I just like to, and
Yes.
just getting used to these new normals that, for them it's tough. For us, it's tough.
Yes.
And you just have to try and do everything you can to make sure that they understand that, mom still loves you, dad still loves you. We're just not together with each other anymore, but you are very loved and you've done nothing wrong. You didn't cause this. You're not at fault. And we both want to be there to support you no matter what and anything that you're going to do. So keeping the kids' perspective in mind is huge.
Yes.
And I lost that for a while, and I lost sight of a lot of things for a while. And putting
Yes.
that back in order was very healthy, very helpful.
Yes.
And now my kids are much more supported by me now than they were before. And
Yeah.
that's a learning situation too. That's a learning opportunity that I should have taken advantage of way sooner than what I did. Because
Well, kids also go through that process. They have to
yeah,
like come to this acceptance stage.
yeah,
My little one, like she was 2 years old, so she didn't understand much. I think it affected more my eldest daughter. She's 6. I mean, still little, but she understands more. But I agree. Like having these, mentalities that, like how kids will think, how we can make them feel better instead of just like, being mad at each other.
right. And that's the easy thing to do. It's easy just to point the finger and blame the other person, but you're right. It takes two people no matter what. It takes two people to get married. It takes two people to stay married, and it takes two people to get divorced, and it takes two people to
Have a
recover from
right
divorce.
relationship, right? Yes.
Yeah. And then when you have the kids involved, it takes two people plus those kids to embrace all of the changes and the new things that are happening. And
Yeah. I
so that,
actually was very sad, for my kids. I was not sad
yeah,
about me, about, like the most I was just sad for my kids. But then, to be like quite honest, the way I just calmed myself, I like told myself, look, okay, we're getting divorced, but your kids are healthy. They have food. Like in Armenia or in different countries, like kids don't have all of these toys. They don't have all of these, convenient things. Like kids in America, they are so blessed. Yes, like we got divorced, but we still love them. They have the best toys, the dresses, the food, they travel. They have, mom and dad, no matter what, right? So I said to myself, like every kid in their childhood goes through something. Even like, as I say, like just not having a toy. Like in my country, maybe like a kid will have just one toy for his entire life, right? And they see other kids maybe have it and they want it, but their parents cannot afford. So I feel like instead of just focusing on, like, oh, why this happened, focusing on what they have, it helped me a lot, like at least I can provide a better life for them, and they have better opportunities here.
I agree. You have a unique perspective having grown up in Armenia, knowing that here in America we are so blessed with abundance that we take it for granted. We lose sight because we don't
Yes.
really appreciate it.
Like I was cleaning my garage, Tony. I have this like pink fancy car that like girls have it, little girls. And I remember when I was a kid, we had to pay $1 or $2. My dad has to pay $2, so I can just drive from here like few feet, to go back. And that was just only once a year in summer. Now my kids even don't pay attention to that car. It is just sitting in that garage, not, like no battery, nothing, and they don't even pay attention. They have everything, bicycle, cars, like all the toys and dresses that we were dreaming. I mean, I was dreaming when I was a kid. I'm a Soviet Union, kid, and we were not having all of this abundance. So That's why I'm trying to see the good side of it, instead of just like suffering, because I feel like I have suffered enough, from that thought. So I would, advise you do the same, because, there are some kids that lack a lot of more important stuff.
I've always tried to teach my kids gratitude and
Yeah.
how to make good choices. And you want to exemplify that and model that behavior for them as well. So really, in raising kids, you become a better person because you want to be a good parent, and it's not
Yes.
because you are trying to be a better person. It's because you have no choice but to model that behavior for your kids. And I remember one time, my oldest two are 23 months apart, and they're best friends, and they still are best friends to this day. My daughter's 20, about to be 21, and my son is 18, about to turn 19, and
That's amazing.
they're still best friends. But one time when they were little, like 2 and 3, 3 and 4, something like that, one of them hit the other one, and I was going to go down there in the basement where they were playing and spank this kid and tell him that you can't hit somebody. And I'm like, my God, I'm going to hit my kid to tell him that hitting is not okay. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I sat them both
Yes.
down, and I'm like, all right, do you understand that you can't do this? Right? And it led me on this journey of trying to be a better parent by explaining to them what it was that they were doing, and these choices. Choice A has this consequence A, choice B has consequence B, and sometimes we're given more than that in choices, but at the end of the day, you have these choices to make, and no matter what choice you make, there's going to be a consequence, whether it's good or bad. And
Yes.
you have to learn that when your kids grow up, the goal of a parent is to become irrelevant. Your
Yes.
goal is to become unnecessary. And that hurts my heart as a dad because I love my kids and I want them to always want to be around me and need me and all of that. But my job is to
Well,
make them independent, good
yes.
choice making adults that don't need me.
Yes.
And when they start learning that they can make choices and they have consequences, that their rebellion as a teenager was they would take a day off of work to stay home and do movie night with us instead of going out to a party. They weren't out being rebellious. So I think it
I'm
might.
still not in that stage, but I already like getting ready, like it is hard, to transition as a parent also, you are like
Yeah.
holding this little kid, then like she's talking, she doesn't want this, she wants this. Now maybe one day she wants to go a party. I don't know. I'm just gonna go with her party. I'm not letting my kid to go to party alone.
Well, wait till they
I'm
become
gonna become
teenagers.
an invisible person and go.
Wait till they become teenagers and they're out and about without you anyway, and they're gonna do. So you have to prepare them before they become that time, that to know how to make good choices and to know that there are
Yes.
consequences to every choice, and that you're their safe place. So when they get in a spot where they make a poor choice, that they feel okay to call dad and say, "Hey, come pick me up. This party is not something I want to be a part of. I thought it
Yes.
was. I blew it, and here I am. Come
I
get me."
agree. I
And
think
I'm
being
there.
a like best friend for your kids is very important. I'm trying, to teach my kids that they can always share, even though they are little, but they can always share what happened, so they're not
Yeah.
afraid.
It's okay to tell me what happened. It's okay to tell me that you made a mistake, and I won't be mad at you for telling me, but I'll
Yes,
show you the consequences of your choice. And when you
yes,
explain it like that, it's different than punishment.
yes,
Then they
yes,
get to learn how to make good choices, and then they grow up to be good human beings. And
yes.
that makes me a better person, and that makes me a better employee. That makes me a better leader at work. That makes me a
I
better
agree.
person who's able to lead team
I,
members when you have a team to make better choices. And I hate
yes,
to relate team members that are in your uh, authority to children, but it's the same idea. You're teaching them that there are consequences to choices, good and bad, and you're helping
yes,
them make those better choices, and you're guiding them along the path of their next step in their career on how to make
yes.
those choices to get there.
I
And
think like the beauty also of having kids, they also not only make you a better person, but like you become more driven. Like that's how, for me,
absolutely.
like I want to provide a better life for my kids, and they are my drive to do it, because I'm thinking, if I didn't have kids, like what is my reason, to achieve all of these things? Like what is my motivation? What is my who I am doing it for, right? So it is always great. And I have seen a lot of people that as soon as they have kids, they transition. They become like, you know, making more money, more driven, right? More
Yeah.
like drive, yeah, more like achieving more stuff. So it is like amazing, you know, how kids can change you in so many better ways.
That's what happened to me when my kids were born. I just told a friend who just got home from the hospital from having her first child, and I was like, man, the first time I held my daughter, my life just changed. And I
Yes,
knew things were going to be different from then on. And that's when I
yes,
went back to school and I finished college. And I was driving a truck at the time, and I was going to school on Saturday mornings at the college down the street. And I, 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 I had dropped out of college at Purdue because I was hauling horses and making a ton of money, and I didn't need a
yes,
degree to work for myself. And I thought I knew everything because I was young and stupid. And then I finished college and I drove a truck for another couple of years after that before I was moved into a different role. And I finally took over as a shipping manager. And then I learned a whole lot of new lessons. But that being a parent motivated me to be a better employee and a better team member and a better leader. And I started at first thinking that now I've got this title, I'm important and I'm special, and I failed a lot. And then fortunately, some of those guys that were in my charge then were just coworkers before because I was a driver with them at the same place. And now I call some of them really good, close friends still, here 25 years later, because they understood that I was just learning, and I was humble about it, and I apologized to them for making all these mistakes and being proud and taking the title on as my identity instead of becoming a steward of that leadership and helping them grow and
yes.
leading them in a way that they wanted to be led instead of how I thought it should be done. So it's a lesson in humility as well. You have to be a good leader, you have to help people around you achieve more, and then
I agree.
pretty soon these people become better, and then you become recognized as somebody who grows people. And when that
Tony,
happens, you become a good leader.
that's another question. Actually, you are reading my mind that I had to ask you. I have couple of shipping managers that they reached out to me and they also want to transition and they were asking about my mentorship and courses. So you have been in that role. Like, what advice would you give? Are there like lessons, that you wish you had known earlier? I mean, you kind of shared about it, but would you recommend them to, leave that role, fixed salary, security, and like challenge themselves to get a better opportunity in the future?
Well, first of all, if I was a shipping manager starting out again and I was new to being a shipping manager, I would say a lot of times in that role, you're not privy to the information of the company's P&L statements. You're not in with the accounting people or the purchasing people or whoever that has a lot of the control over that. And I would say do the best you can to get your on-time delivery correct. If you have to schedule production with the production scheduling people, work with them and set up routines and specifications so that you have your finished goods in the amount of time that you need to be able to book trucks and make it happen. And stop booking trucks before you have a load. Don't wait for production, because if something happens and the production line goes down, now you have a truck sitting there with no load to put on it, and
Yes,
don't put
please,
yourself in
please
that
share
spot.
that moment because we, as a freight brokers, we experience that a lot. We
Yeah.
send the truck and the product is not ready. Now, like here it comes, like arguing, layover, all that type of stuff.
Yep. And so you can save yourself a lot of trouble by making sure that you work with scheduling instead of just shipping. So
Yes,
involve yourself in more aspects of the company. Get to know the accounting guys. Spend some time with them, learn their job, appreciate them, and they will share with you information. And what I learned was we were buying stuff at another company. It wasn't Lippert, but at another company, we were buying stuff delivered.
okay.
So our purchasing people thought they knew everything about logistics, but they were just buying it delivered. And what they realized, what we found out from accounting, not from purchasing, was that they were hiding the higher cost of goods increases in the freight of it being delivered instead
Okay.
of telling them that the price of the good had gone up. So these guys are going to their bosses, hey, we've kept the same price for 4 years. We're doing great. And it looks great, sounds great, except the price was still going up because they were hiding
Yes.
it in the freight, which they didn't know freight and they didn't understand that they were being taken advantage of. And
Yes.
If you can separate some of those things and start pointing out these things and helping them become
Yes.
better by being a resource for them to go to, even if they don't want to, you can help them and guide them in what it should be. Even if you're just quoting lanes that you'll never ship because they're going to ship it to you, you can
Yes.
still bounce off that rate and find out if it's even market based or if they're just hiding cost in it.
Yeah.
So get into the details, get into the stuff that no one asks you to. Go be
Yes.
curious and learn everything you can about what it takes to keep your operation rolling. And then you'll
Yes.
become more than a shipping manager. You'll become a valued asset that people are looking for.
Yes. My question was more like, what would you recommend shipping managers who want to transition to freight brokering side and sales?
Well, I'll tell you, it sounds easy and you think you know everything because everybody's hitting on you all day, every day, but it's not. It's not easy. It's not easy to get someone like you in the shipping manager role to say yes to someone like you in a shipping manager role who's now selling freight brokerage or
Yes.
capacity in the marketplace. Because, again, you know as well as anybody that you're getting hit up 10, 15, 20 times a day and it's always the same thing. Everybody promotes the same ideas and selling points, so you better be ready for it. I'll tell you, I thought I was, and I wasn't. So I'm learning as I go. So I don't know what to recommend. I think if you're a personable person, if you're likable, and you're able to expand your connections in your group, and you have a lot of prospects and people that say that they would do that with you if you were to go that route, then plan ahead and do that in over time.
Yes.
Create a plan to don't just like, oh, I'm gonna go be a freight broker and then
Yes.
go do
Yes.
it. Have clients already lined up, have people that want to go with you, and have people that know where you're gonna go and would go with you, and then help you build your book of business. Because I didn't
Yes.
do that, and
Well,
I
I
should have.
remember when I was a freight broker, and you were like one of very few shipping managers who would post in LinkedIn, because most of the shipping managers, they don't post in LinkedIn, right?
Right.
And I remember as a freight broker, I have learned, a lot from you, like your perspective, perspective as shipping manager, what they are looking for. So I found it, very great and very different, you were sharing it. So that was
Well, if you open
amazing.
yourself up to that, then you're also opening yourself up to all the solicitations and the emails,
Yes,
and the
I
DM.
agree. I agree. But you will get that if your title is shipping manager. You will get that
Yeah,
prospect anyway. I think, but I agree. But
it,
at the
it
same
is
time, you
good.
build your relationships. When you
Yep.
are like posting.
So, in posting stuff like that, what I learned was I saw a lot of template emails, and I don't mind not retyping the same email over and over, but don't make it sound like everything else. There was at one point I posted something because I was getting the same two emails from everybody. There was like this template and that template that everybody was using, and I was like,
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
come on, be original, talk to me, like be a human being, don't be this template guy.
Yes.
So in my roles now, I will type up an email and send the same similar email to multiple prospects, but
Yes.
it's me talking, not a template that everybody else is using. It's me telling you about me. It's me telling you about you. It's
Yes. Well,
unique.
now we have some fun moment of our podcast, Tony. So you have
Oh
to answer rapid fire freight brokering fun questions. Are you ready for that?
no.
This is the questions I haven't give you ahead of time. So, you have to be like very fast and very, fun to answer. So, what is your most favorite word as a freight broker hearing from the shipper?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Mine is book it.
Yes.
Okay. If you could rename the term cold call, what would you like it to call instead?
If I could
If you
re-
could rename the term cold call, what would you like to rename it instead?
warm call,
Warm
because
call.
you don't just dial a random number and hope they ship stuff. I want it to be a warm call because I know everything about the company and what they're moving and how they're doing it. I just don't know the person that's making that decision. I think it's a warm call because you've done your homework first.
I agree. So, what is the funniest objection you have ever heard from a shipper?
Oh, I man, They're all funny because I've said them all.
What is
Everything's
the
customer
funny story?
routed. We
Because most of the
99.
times they repeat the same, but like maybe you had some fun stories.
Well, I don't know if I have anything unique, but everybody says it's customer routed, or we don't handle shipping, or there's a 3PL that runs our freight for us, or any number of objections that I've said to everybody too. I know not all of that's
Well, welcome
necessarily
to
true.
the tribe. Now you understand, as I say, what we are going through. As you say, it was a humbling, situation. I feel like we have to bring all of the shipping managers to become a freight broker, so they understand what we are going through. What do you think?
I tell you what, it would be an eye-opening experience for the freight world for sure, and I think it'd make us better shipping managers at the on the other side too. We'd probably answer the phone a little bit more, probably.
Yes, I agree,
Maybe.
right?
I
And
don't
ghost
know.
people a little bit less, right?
I'm not promising that would happen. I'm just saying it might.
Yes, it might. Well, Tony, it was such a great conversation. I'm so grateful you agreed to join. And I tried to find the comments. To be honest with you, I couldn't. I don't know if people have any questions, but we can ask later in the comments. And thank you everyone for watching. This was your Bestie in Freight podcast, and my guest Tony, and I'm your host Lida. And I will see you next week on Thursday again, this time 9:30. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Lida.
Tony.
It was great to be here.
Thanks.